Welcome to Psyched for Psychology, a Nystrom and Associates podcast. Our hosts, Michelle Iverson and Brett Cushing, are both licensed marriage and family therapists at Nystrom and Associates. Each week, they talk about all things mental health and therapy, and you get a chance to dive into specific psychology topics that help promote personal development and wellness. And now, here are your hosts, Michelle and Brett.
Hello, I'm Michelle Iverson, licensed marriage and family therapist, and thank you so much for joining our podcast, Psyched for Psychology. My co-host, Brett Cushing, is on vacation for this week, but he's looking forward to joining us again soon. Episodes for our podcast will be released weekly on Tuesday mornings. Our podcast also has an email, podcast@nystromcounseling.com. We want to hear all of your feedback and comments, and we would love to hear ideas for upcoming episode topics that you would be psyched to hear us talk about. Today, we have a very special interview with a very special guest. We will be talking about pride in the community, perfect theme for Pride Month. And so I would love to have our guest introduce himself for our topic today.
Hello, I'm Nathaniel Churchill. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor over at the Eden Prairie Nystrom office. I work with, a wide range of people. From young folks, older folks. There's a solid chance that if you have ADHD, you're probably my client. I also work with a few. I'm kind of growing my little group of LGBTQ individuals that I work with as well. So,
right.
That's kind of me.
Well, that's why me and Brett were so excited to have you on as one of our interview guests. This podcast in June, it's Pride Month. At Nystrom, we're actually really excited. We're going to have a booth over in Loring Park this year. So come visit us, come check us out. You'll see me and maybe Nathaniel too on June 25th and June 26th. And so we were kind of thinking about, what are the things that are really important when it comes to the LGBTQIA community? And we just started kind of thinking about pride and the importance of pride.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we were talking a little bit about, what does pride mean?
Yeah.
How does it, how is that experience for other people? I think, I was thinking a little bit about it, pride really has I think it's a personal thing, because people who are just kind of coming out of the closet, figuring themselves out, when you go to something like Loring Park, during Pride Month, it's this amazing sense of, there are people like me. And then when you get older, you're old like me, you're it's, another parade, it's great to see you've done it, and I think, at some point that's you've kind of met that need of knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Pride's been around for a long time. It's the 50th anniversary this year. It's been going since 1972. And do you think there's a lot of people that think of Pride especially if they're first in the coming out process? Do you think a lot of people think of it as maybe their first point of contact for finding others and finding a community?
Yeah, I definitely. I think probably now not 100% because I think there are a lot of points of access to the community, but I think Pride is really a big one. And I think what's great about events like Pride is it's a place you can go where this aspect of your identity, wherever you fall in the alphabet soup of LGBTQIA, 2S, is this aspect of yourself becomes a non-issue. And I think that's what people maybe, who aren't in the community sort of miss. Because, I was thinking of the times I go back to my hometown and spend time with the people that I went to high school with, and this happens occasionally. I am very aware of, I'm the gay one,
Yeah.
And it's great being in a place where that's just not an issue.
Right.
It's not something to worry about. You go to Pride and you're this is great, and all these people, and this is not something I have to worry or think about. I'm mostly just worried about getting in line and getting a corn dog.
Right.
Like
it's safe and it's welcoming.
Yeah.
And there's corn dogs.
And there's corn dogs. I think now what is nice though, I think of some of the young people I work with,
Mm-hmm.
They have things like GSAs,
Mm-hmm.
they have like, places they can go, those sort of
Mm-hmm.
safe places that they can be and feel okay being themselves. There's a lot more acceptance in general, in a broad sort of sense. But for some people,
Mm-hmm.
but as we know that there's some people that society is still working on being a little bit more accepting. And so having those places where people can go and they don't have to like worry so much is really nice. But even then, I do have kids who are like, I don't know if I'm going to do the GSA thing. Because, they have not reached this sort of like, I'm going to be loud and out and proud point.
Yes.
They just kind of want to blend in.
Yeah.
I just want to live my life. I don't know. Yeah, I'm probably getting off topic, but
no, you're good.
I think of the sort of the broad acceptance has made Pride itself this sort of like, this is kind of a fun event. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a fun reminder.
Yeah.
But since they're especially in the sort of city area, mm-hmm. I think a lot of folks don't feel this push to be like, yeah, we got to stand up and be loud, except when things come up. I was definitely thinking about when there was the Vote No campaign mm-hmm. that came out for marriage equality not too long ago. And what was weird about it is you voted no to vote yes to marriage equality. It was
they make those so confusing all the time.
It was so confusing. And I remember there was such a huge turnout. There was such a huge mm-hmm. turnout for that. And so I think that's nice. These things are, stuff like that when we have to kind of come together for stuff is really, it's really powerful. It's really impactful to see, all those people mm-hmm. sort of together with one purpose.
Yeah.
And I think about that too when I think of Pride in general. Mm-hmm. I will start rambling at this point, I'm sure. It is again the sort of uniting factor of everybody, and everyone in the community also knows, whatever your letter is, mm-hmm. We're all very different, but mm-hmm. I think a long time ago, someone pointed out to me that it was like in a grad school class. I've learned so much from straight people, about this. That the uniting factor for all of us is the coming out process. Mm-hmm. We all, to some degree, have to do that. Mm-hmm. And even as we grow older, we still kind of have to do it with people.
Yeah.
As we meet new people, we're like, oh yeah, by the way. And I think, that, there are these unifying aspects of the community. I think that's where we get into this sort of, what is the community?
Right.
Right. And what is it that ties us together? And we're tied together. Well, you'll notice more when there's something that we are sort of, united against, we're in a political environment where some things are coming up, and so I get a sense that there'll be more of that sort of unifying force again.
Yeah.
But in those calmer years, Pride is just a nice thing to go to. It's just gets you out of the house, reminds you that yes, there are other people out there. I think it would be, talking about the community, I think it would be nicer if there were you said that sort of point of entry. There were more places, mm-hmm. especially as we get older, mm-hmm. that aren't just like a gay bar, mm-hmm. There are more places that we can go where we can sort of access the community, but also do it while sober.
Right.
Right. It would be really neat.
Well, yeah, especially for our clients whose sobriety is a goal of theirs that they're working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes me kind of really think about, we work with a lot of clients who are a part of LGBTQIA, the entire spectrum, and really kind of struggling with a lot of isolation. And I think, of course, during the pandemic, I think that got a lot worse for a lot of people. It's really hard too, if you're living in a more rural area, to be able to get access to groups and support that you might really need during this time. So I end up finding that word community tends to come up a lot in sessions. Yeah.
I think there is I don't know, it's, community sort of also blends into the idea of sort of found family.
Yes.
And so, finding the people that you can have in your inner circle that you can be really close to, and who can make you, make you feel you are in a safe place. A safe space is more of a person than it is a physical location. Who are your safe spaces, in your life? And I think that's a huge thing to sort of focus on with the community piece, because just like any group, we're not all holding hands in kumbaya all the time. Like, that'd be neat, but there are individual differences, like not everybody's going to get along. I was thinking of relating it to, I don't know, if you're part of, being part of a group, but you're not you're not connected to everyone there. Many moons ago when I went to church, I always thought about this. And it was like, I went to church, I had a sense of community there. I wasn't best friends with everybody, but
sure.
I felt we all had sort of a common perspective of the world.
Right.
Sort of unified, being, I grew up Mormon. So there was also this another sort of odd man out
sure.
group that I was part of, especially in the area I grew up in. It's central Illinois. So,
Can I ask about that? People as safe spaces. I just love that phrase.
Yeah.
What would be the green flags? The things that would indicate to you that person could be a safe space for you?
Yeah. Well, I think the green flags are, I guess I would have to say, again, it's that sense of, this aspect of your identity is a non-issue. It is nice to have people who are really warm and receptive and, willing to talk about it, and they're not judgmental about it. But, and there are lots of allies that are that way, that I feel safe and comfortable with. But at the same time, I like also just being with people that I'm this is not even something that comes up, where I am just me, and this is just some other aspect of me.
Right.
And, we're more likely to talk about nerdy stuff than we are to talk about our sexual orientation.
Yes.
or our gender identity, or, if it comes up, sure, but we'd rather talk about, the last episode of Star Trek we saw or something. I don't know. Yeah, by the way, warning, I'm very nerdy, and but that's a segue. I think there is the underlying community within the community of nerdy LGBTQ folk, because I think, honestly, these sort of nerdy pursuits where it is playing role-playing games or video games or all that sort of stuff, or anime is huge.
Yes.
For folks. This sort of, their communities within the communities, and that is also kind of how people find these safe spaces, no one's going to judge me about my sexual orientation or my, interest in Final Fantasy,
Right.
or the fact that I love to talk about Pokemon cards, something like that. No one will judge me here. And I think those places where you can feel either free to talk about it or not talk about it, I think is definitely a green flag. And I know that even when you find those people, if they aren't going through the same thing you are, it still is not quite the same. It's so you got to kind of work with what you have available, and just being in the cities doesn't instantly mean you're going to find your group. But I think as because I was thinking that especially the teenage folk, like they don't have as much autonomy to go out and find groups or the people that they need. So
that tends to be a big barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think about that one a lot, working with LGBTQ adolescents, LGBTQIA adolescents is one of those things that got me into doing this, because I know that I had like a rough time finding a sense of community and belonging as I grew up and came out and all that. And so yeah, that process, finding that community piece, just finding a whole big group of people that just don't care about this thing, but it is the thing that unites us and we're cool with it, is really nice. Finding people who relate to your situation, who understand where you're coming from, I think that is, that's really crucial and important, which is why I'm like also huge, like as far as finding little communities, which is like finding your, gamer nights, finding your movie nights with people, like, and so, finding your communities within communities is really, really crucial as well, because I think we talked about, like, at one point, like little prides. You have your little pride festivals with your gatherings. And I think those are nice too. Yeah.
What do you think the impact of social media has been on finding connection with other people?
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of those double-edged sword sort of things where it's like, yep, it's great. You can like instantly sort of find people, which I think is why the significance maybe of Pride has sort of like tamped down over the years. Before we were able to instantly access members of the community or other people who sort of shared our feelings and thoughts and beliefs. Prior to that, this is the only place you could go to meet other people, or to, really start connecting. And social media has allowed us to sort of like instantly sort of find the folks. Like, my partners recently sort of introduced me to the concept of like, queer TikTok. I'm like,
yes.
Oh, that's a thing. Okay.
It's a thing. There's like, like mini categories of TikToks that are like your bi talk, your gay, like there's all sorts.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, again, it's like you're looking and these little videos of like speak directly to you about your own experiences and what you're going through.
Yes.
And so I think in a way, TikTok's been really great for that. Because also I think what's nice about TikTok is that it is a little self-effacing. It knows what kind of medium it is. It's especially in the LGBTQIA talk, it does make fun of itself a little bit, I think. And it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think that's great. I think areas where it gets a little are, Instagram can get a little, I don't know about Facebook. I'm old. I'm still on Facebook, so the young people are like, yeah, that's where my mom goes. I'm like, oh my God. I'm a parent now.
We both are. I know. It's.
I just go to Facebook to be grumpy. That's what I do. If I need something to like get upset about, I go on Facebook. But no, like things like Instagram, even Snapchat, these apps is that they can also like really present sort of a twisted sort of view, or distorted. I would like to say like kind of a distorted view. And, and this just gets into, I think, kind of the broader issues of you must look a certain way and behave a certain way and have certain interests to be part of the community. On a smaller, weirder scale, back when I was younger, This is why I had such a beef with like Queer as Folk when it came out. So many people loved it, and I had really mixed feelings about it. And just because it's like I felt it was telling me like you must be this hot to participate. You know, your body must be this shape for you to participate. I have liked to see, and this is the other good side of the social media, seeing a little bit more of a push, sort of like normalizing it for normal people. Like you can just be just a person, just an everyday person, and be cool with yourself and participate in the community. And but I also know that that sex sells. Just put that out there. So you get images about taking it back to the pride thing a little bit. You get images about like this is what it looks like, and like it kind of gives you a feeling of like, well, do I get to participate? Which is why this is why I think Pride itself is really helpful going there, because you get to see the diverse people that are there. It's like it is every person of every shape, size, and color is participating, and I think that is great. And so I think that is why again, social media can. I think what we forget sometimes about social media is that, it's a lot of the times the people who are really speaking out and really making a loud message aren't always representative of the rest of the group.
Sure.
So lots of outliers in the stuff that people see on or on messaging and all that sort of thing. The comment section. I would advise every young person, don't look at the comment section.
Don't.
This is what, in my many years, this is what I've learned.
Turn them off.
Turn it out of there. Don't go look at it. It's bad. It's bad for you. Because again, you're going to see like people saying really positive stuff, but people saying really negative stuff. Turns out we start focusing on all the negative stuff we see, and they're like, there are people who think like this. You have to remind yourself, like, yes, but those are also more often than not outliers. They are not speaking for the rest of the group. So, that is the other sort of downside, is that you can start getting introduced to sort of the ugliness that still pervades. And remembering to focus on, usually I find that if I were to count it up, that it's like, usually there are more positive comments than negative comments, usually. Depending on what website, depending on what Facebook page, But again, this is Facebook, and young people aren't on Facebook, so.
Well, so I think it still applies to Instagram and TikTok too. Absolutely.
And so.
Social media, great way to like get information, is a form of being able to make connections, but we don't want to lose sight of those intimate connections. People who really get to know us in real life. And like you said, that accept us just for who we are in real life too.
Making your own personal communities.
Yes.
So you have your big overarching community where like, I am acknowledged, or I am just part of this thing that's bigger than myself. I think a lot of people like having that sense of that. But the focusing on the sort of more intimate connections, the people close to you who make your safe spaces, who are your safe spaces. And sort of, I think those are things to focus on in Pride, because you can get caught up in sort of maybe wild expectations that come from, again, like, I was saying about the looking a certain way, behaving a certain way. That can also just, in a smaller way, apply to Pride itself. People have this, I think it used to be this way than it is now, sort of this bacchanal.
I think much more family-friendly events now.
Like, tamp your expectations. There are a lot of, like, baby strollers here. So, but again, depending on where you're at during Pride,
Is there any recommendations, places to go to that you tend to recommend to your clients the most when they are trying to find personal connections, when they are trying to find people, even just around the cities?
Oh, let's see. That's been one that's a little tougher to do.
It's been a little tougher, yeah.
When it's the young folk, I definitely just like point them towards their GSA.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it might feel a little weird and awkward, it's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I've suggested to people like look for volunteer opportunities,
mm-hmm.
like outfront.org, I think is one that I've sort of pointed people toward. I think volunteering opportunities are really great. Just get to be around people. Again, you're here, a united front for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish or outreach or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of where I was like, it would be nice if there were more things like that, because you go to a town like Chicago, they have an LGBTQIA center. There's a place you can go. We don't have that in Minneapolis. And I've always thought that was something we really needed to work on, where I just have like a centralized place, like call here, go here, and they'll have something for you. Right. There's something community related there. Right now, like Google.
Yeah. I was going to say, I use meetup.com for a lot of options. You can do a search for LGBTQIA. I have seen book club options on there for the cities. There might be some other like game night, Dungeons and Dragons groups on there too. I mean, you might be surprised at what you find.
Meetup is one I suggest it to my older clients. I don't suggest it to my youngsters. Like, wait until you're like an adult.
Yes.
I do not want to put you in danger of meeting strangers. Meetup has been one. I literally was part of like the Minneapolis or Minnesota Paranormal Society on Meetup for a while, but I was always too shy to go. I was like, so find a friend to go to a meetup with. There are all sorts of groups here. I know that there are people for or groups for transgender individuals. In particular, I think we're getting a lot more of those right now because there's that sort of need for more of a sense of connection and community for that population. And so, Meetup's a good one. Again, Google searches also help.
Yeah.
I think again, as the community, like the big capital community, has become more mainstream. Again, there's I think that is why we don't see things like a community center, because maybe there's just not a sense that like we really need to have this come together. It's us versus the world sort of feeling, though I still think it would be helpful. But it makes me think of, in the work I've done, I've worked like within a middle school, and the principal there had talked about wanting to start a GSA in one of the other schools they worked at, in one of the other schools they worked at. And the kids didn't want one because they didn't feel they needed one. They're like, no, we're fine. And so that was very shocking to the principal I was talking to. It was like, what? But of course, but okay, I guess. but also that's kind of the goal as well, is that we feel enough of we feel safe enough just day to day that we don't need to go. We don't need to have this, special group for us. But maybe in the coming years, we'll see more of a push for that, and so that would be kind of interesting to see if there's sort of a rise in the number of GSAs that we see out there. And so, we'll see.
Good. So I think we might wrap up then for today, just to kind of reflect a little bit more on just what you said about that idea of mini prides.
Yeah.
Like we think about mini prides throughout the year. What do you think is the biggest kind of takeaway that you have when thinking about how we can achieve those mini prides for ourselves all year long?
Well, let's see. I think your mini prides, your get together with your close friends, your people that you can confide in. Throw a party once in a while.
Yes.
I love a good movie night. I love a game night. I love finding those moments that bring you all together with the people who are close to you, who you relate to and who relate to you, and where you can just find those days and find those events or those times where you can just feel okay being you, and bringing that, again, sort of maybe found family, even equality, into one spot, and just kind of find that throughout the year for yourself, I think is good.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our Psyched for Psychology podcast. We'll have new episodes being released every Tuesday morning. You can find us on any major podcast streaming platform, and you can follow us for our new episodes. Please let us know by emailing us at podcast@nystromcounseling.com any future topics that you would love to hear us talk about. And you can also learn more about Nystrom Associates and all of our mental health services by going to nystromcounseling.com, or come visit our booth at our Pride Festival event coming up in the Twin Cities, June 25th through June 26th. Thank you again for joining. We're psyched to talk to you again soon.
Thank you as always for listening, and please be sure to leave us a review. While this podcast can't be a replacement for therapy, we hope you enjoyed our discussion today and join us again next time. Nystrom and Associates is always available to those who are struggling. If you find yourself in need of support and help, please check us out at nystromcounseling.com.